Unique Pathways is sponsored by Piedmont Realty Holdings, building better together. Bellaterra Landscaping and Hardscaping Services. ECS Prosthetics, we come to you. Jeff Burton Consulting, charting your path to a successful outcome. Major League Mindset, results on and off the field. Blue Sky Property Management, own your experience. BSN Sports, the heart of the game. And by Croze Sports, community, family, and sports.
Welcome to another episode of Unique Pathways presented by H3 Sports. I am your host, Ben Rekosh, and today we're joined by a very, very special guest. It is the University of Virginia women's lacrosse assistant coach, also a former UNC women's lacrosse player, current USA national team player. So quite the resume for only graduating a couple years ago, but it is none other than Caylee Waters. Wahoo Nation might not know the name, but they should, because this is quite the story and one that I'm very excited to tell.
Thank you, Ben, for having me. I love hearing your voice. Sounds like you could be an announcer for sports or something.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. So I want to first get into representing your country at the highest level. It's obviously quite the honor. It shows the type of player you are and the type of person you are. How meaningful is it to be able to contribute at that level and then ultimately bring home the United States' 9th title in the World Cup in 2022?
Yeah, I feel very fortunate to have played on the U.S. team, the World Cup team in 2022, but especially being able to have started in 2014 and just, meeting all the women who I had played with in 2014 that won in 2017, and they had been with previous World Cup teams. And so just having so many teammates, they've really helped me learn a lot, grow a lot as a player, supportive, a bunch of fun, so athletic. And then, just representing USA, that just it still is kind of unbelievable to say and feel that, but being able to, at a sport that I passionately love. And for those of you who don't know, lacrosse is now in the Olympics in 2028. So super psyched that on even a bigger stage, lacrosse and USA lacrosse will be there.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to get into it a little bit later, but just lacrosse as a whole, it seems like it's, I don't know, having a surge recently, the PLL, the WPLL, everything like that. How cool is it to see, as both a player and a coach, to see that sport that you've grown up playing really come onto a national stage now?
Yeah, each time I either watch the PLL or I'm involved in US or I play in Athletes Unlimited, the women's league, or I watch other college games or high school games, the level each year just continues to be pushed and go up and up. And what I'm seeing, it's just, a lot of times when I watch, I forget that I'm a player too, because I'm just so entertained. I'm like, how do they do that? But I remember, I've been out there before. I've seen teammates who do that. So it's really exciting and cool to see that there are so many athletes and players and coaches who all together are pushing this sport and, the skill level and ability and the team and culture and everything.
Yeah, that's totally awesome. And lacrosse being an Olympic sport in the next couple of years, that's just really cool to see how it's been growing in the United States and what it can do for the sport at an international level. I want to get into the beginning of your story right here a little bit. So you're obviously a native of Darien, Connecticut. Apologies if I'm saying that wrong, but lacrosse obviously huge in the Northeast. What was, your early playing stage like? You have a great deal of accolades at the high school level, but was it only lacrosse in the picture? Were you strong in other sports? How big was that scene?
Yeah, I'll try not to be too wordy with this because I am very appreciative of where I came from and my family, friends, and support system that helped lead me to lacrosse. But essentially, so I have 3 brothers and they played a bunch of sports. My parents, they were both coaches in a lot of sports. They're both divers. And my dad kind of coached me a lot in many sports. I was always wanting to do what my brothers did. And in 5th grade, I remember some of my friends started playing lacrosse for the town, or they just had this young girls kind of clinic that I missed out on fifth grade. I was playing other sports. I played football, baseball. I loved tennis, basketball, swimming, diving, etc. And soccer was also big. So then I remember going in the sixth grade, and I was like, I really want to play lacrosse. It's at the time I would have called it FOMO, but that word wasn't there yet, fear of missing out. I just wanted to be on the lacrosse field because that's what my friends were doing, and I just wanted to be out there hanging out with them. And I remember, I would hang out with my friends in fifth grade, and they all had this lacrosse stick, and they were trying these quick sticks. And I had friends who would go to UNC camp and tell stories. And I had a neighbor who gave me a girls lacrosse stick because at the time my brothers were playing, so I didn't have one. Thought it was the coolest thing ever. So just starting lacrosse at that later age, when I had been more developed just mentally and physically, I think that's what really connected me to the sport, because I felt like I had to do it on my own. When I was younger and I was starting these sports, you're not as like cognizant really of what you're doing. You're just like, your feet are out there and you're just like trying your best. But this, I really felt like I had to hone in on my skills, because I didn't want my friends to be better than me. I didn't want to be a step behind them, even though I, started later. So that kind of helped kickstart my love for this, or the passion for kind of working and playing lacrosse and training. And so I played a couple years on the travel team, or like rec team for my town. And I remember they need a goalie. Goalies would rotate. I somehow always got to miss out on that because I went to soccer or baseball, whatever. And, a couple of the parents who knew me were like, no, we've got to try Caylee. We think that she'll be fearless of the ball. So I was like, okay, fine. I very much so just like kind of went with the flow of things. And my best friend in high school, her dad actually, I'll never forget my first lesson with him. And I thought it was so strange and uncomfortable. I didn't like standing in the cage, feeling so solo in there. I very much so was like someone who liked scoring goals kind of thing. So the deal was, okay, Caylee, I'll play goalie if I can also play a half of a field position. And that didn't really go through the whole season. Yeah, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. Just never forget. One time I got back checked and I was like, that sucks. I really didn't see that coming. And, there's just a lot of people telling me the potential of goalkeeping and what. So I was just like, all right. And then in eighth grade, I broke my leg.
Okay.
And I missed the lacrosse season. So that's what, and then when I was healing from my broken leg, it was kind of like my mind was kind of already in the direction of goalie sort of thing. I think because they're like, oh, we'll need you back in goal or whatever. So that's when I just centered my focus on goalkeeping and developing that. And I'm very fortunate that, the town does have a lot of lacrosse resources. The parents, the families, the leagues, they help subsidize that for me, because being on a club team is expensive. I have three brothers. And so I guess it kind of was like there was a demand, right? Everyone needed a goalie, but there wasn't really a goalie. So, hey, we can kind of help you out. We will have you here, doing some clinics. And so I'm, just very appreciative of my town and families supporting me in that sense. And, they always believed in me from the beginning. So, it was kind of like, okay, why not? This is something different. Let's get after it.
Yeah. Growing up with three brothers, both your parents were collegiate athletes and coaches. I think I read that your uncle was also a diver. How impactful is that for your competitive nature, for your athletic ability, and just to grow up around that sort of environment? Connecticut itself is obviously a very athletic area, lacrosse there as well, but just being able to surround yourself every day with a support group in your family that, knows what you're going through. How important is that for you?
Yeah, it was it definitely shaped me, and I didn't realize it at the time, because at the time as a
Yeah.
kid, you kind of don't know anything else than what's around you. So I'm very fortunate that it shaped me, and that, my parents, they didn't hold me back when I was like, I want to play football, even though it was the boys, or I want to play baseball on my brother's team because I wanted to play with my brothers and I want to be coached by my dad. And and then having my parents who are in athletics, and my uncle, and I have a ton of cousins and they all
Yeah.
played sport. It's like we didn't know it any other way. So whenever we were together, it was really just outside and active and playing multiple sports, whether it was like soccer or baseball or football. And we still kind of do that to this day. Like we'll always do like a
Yeah.
family Thanksgiving
Yeah.
football game. So yeah, it just overall shaped me to be competitive, and also of like, hey, I I wanted to participate with my brothers. Like I didn't enjoy just standing there watching. So, it kind of just lit that fire in me of I belong with them. Nothing
Yeah.
sets me apart from them. Like I can do this. So it kind of helped build this confidence in me of wanting to prove myself.
Yeah. And then in high school, I mean, I'm reading here on the UNC website, your accolades are just unbelievable. Nike US Lacrosse Northeast Region Player of the Year, US Lacrosse All-American, 69% save percentage, first team All-State, Connecticut Player of the Year. So it seems like you kind of hit the ground running with that as you started to grow in high school.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things to that. That was over 10 years ago now, so I don't know if I'd
Yeah.
still be at that level. I think the high school has really evolved, whether it's the sticks, the IQ, it moves so much faster.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at the time, I really just loved being outside and playing lacrosse, and it was never about there was a point in time when it was about getting recruited, but for me, I felt like I was still at this phase of I had so much to develop, and it was still such a new position for me. So I was just so
Hmm.
intrigued and trying to get better and almost master it. And there wasn't that many people around me who were goalies, right? Everyone else is field
Right.
players and know this and that. So it took ownership and accountability, and uh, I think that's something that I had never found that in myself in other sports or any other areas of life. So, and yeah, it was really fun. And as I've said, like goalies were a need. So anytime my friends wanted to go shoot or play, I'm like, they always need a goalie,
Right.
and I was there.
Yeah. Getting into your recruitment a little bit, was there a point during this high school career, maybe one of those awards that I just read off, that you flipped a switch and thought that this is something that you could do at the next level? Because this might be a sore spot here. As I understand it, you really wanted to go to UVA. They didn't necessarily reach out. So what was that kind of recruiting process like?
Yeah. So when I first, as I mentioned earlier, there were
Right.
um, parents in my town who were part of the lacrosse organization
Yeah.
that wanted me to be goalie. And I remember hearing them a couple times being, oh, you could go to college with this. And I'm in middle school. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like college. Like I haven't even gone to high school yet. So that just like was brushed over, but it wasn't until my freshman year of high school when I was on the varsity team and got playing time that I felt like, okay, I don't know if I thought I could still college wasn't really a thought. I mean, there were seniors who were and juniors who were committed somewhere. So I was like, okay, this would be cool.
Hmm.
But it wasn't until my sophomore year, yeah, when I had heard like this is the time that you get
Yeah.
recruited, that I started to go to camps. And I realized I was just excited to be playing against girls across the country, because
Hmm.
at the time you had at the time, Long Island was like crushing us when we played them. Garden City would go like running clock on us, or like you'd hear that Philly's really good in the Maryland area. So I was just so excited for this test of
Hmm.
seeing what's out there and how I could handle it. And I felt like I was able to see the ball well, or etc., and make some saves. So I was like, okay, like I can do this. Like, I want to do this. And so, I just continued kind of doing what I was doing with goalkeeping and training.
Right.
And then let's see. So I went to some camps, and my club coach, and who was also my high school coach, Lisa Lindley, she would communicate to me like, oh, these coaches are interested in you, etc. I remember my first email ever was from Cornell. I was in high school and I got it, and my body just like, I was in such disbelief. That's when it became real of like, okay, these colleges are interested. And, then I'd go to a clinic and there'd be a college coach there. So then my grandfather went to UVA. My aunt went to UVA, and my cousin, who's younger than me, he went to UVA. So, and my grandfather always spoke highly about UVA. So that was kind of just the thing on my mind of, and I knew UVA historically had been around for a while, the program, and it was, really successful. So I was like, that's the school. I want to go to UVA. I had been wearing UVA gear, that sort of thing. And I had sent a bunch of emails out to coaches, and I didn't ever hear back from UVA, but I did hear through that they already had a goalie. So by the time I had reached out, they had already had a goalie in the roster. The recruiting rules, I think, were a little bit more open. You could kind of commit when you were like a freshman. So, or earlier. So here I was like fall of my junior year looking to go, and they already had a goalie. And I did end up going to UNC, which I absolutely loved. It was a dream school of mine. I do say UVA was, but UNC also was. I guess it made it easier. I didn't have to weigh up between UVA or UNC.
What was it about UNC? I mean, obviously an elite program in its own right, ACC, great academics, great facilities. What was there a deciding factor that ultimately UNC was the decision? Because, I mean, most people would say it's the right decision. I'll read off some accolades in a minute, but.
Yeah, so fall of my junior year was when I was committed, and I was pretty torn between Maryland, Florida, and UNC. And I ended up committing to Maryland, actually. I was kind of just like so ready for the recruiting process to be over. It was like 2.5 months of me just feeling like all these schools are awesome. All these coaches are awesome. I'll go anywhere. I almost wanted someone to just be like, go here, and I've been like, okay, great. But anyway, so I had committed to Maryland, but there's just something in, a few days following from that, a week or 10 days, that I just started to kind of visualize UNC, and I felt it in my gut that it was a school that I wanted regardless of having lacrosse. So I kind of I realized Maryland, like all I saw with it was lacrosse, whereas Maryland, with UNC, I saw myself there without lacrosse, and I was like, there's just some gut feeling that's like, oh my God, I'm missing out. I just felt like I was missing out on myself by not going there. So I ended up changing my verbal commitment to UNC.
That's awesome. I'm going to name a few of your accolades here from your time at North Carolina as a goalie for the Tar Heels. All rookie, all ACC, 2-time National Goal of the Year, national champion, all ACC honor roll. I mean, that's top of the top. That's just about as good of a list as you can have, as anyone can have in your sport. Is there, a time or a game or something that you really cherish? And just when I read off each of those accolades, what does it mean to you?
When you read those, it really brings to mind the people that I was surrounded with, and specifically Megan Ward. She was a goalie a year above me, Phil Barnes, Jenny Levy, and, all of my teammates throughout those 4 years, because, you read those accolades and I don't fully realize kind of what I was doing at the time, or that's what led to that, because, with being at UNC, we were just so focused on ACC championships and winning a national championship that if those awards come, it's great. They're just kind of little things. But the big picture was we wanted ACC. And, I think of Megan because as a said, she's a goalie ahead of me. And we had a really good just like connection and friendship of sharing the position, which was pretty unique. And so it just felt comfortable and competitive in practice. It felt comfortable in the sense that there was another goalie next to me. She was older than me. And I knew that she supported me and wanted me to play my best. And she wasn't someone who like would verbalize it a ton. You could just feel it in her presence around me and the way that she supported me and the way that she was selfless about the position. She had just won a national championship with UNC, came in off the bench, made an amazing save. If you haven't seen the highlight, it's sick. It gives me chills.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she just just came in open arms, and we really just bonded about the position. I mean, it can be hard. It can be like mentally grueling, physically. So there's just that like goalie connection that we shared of what we're going through. So we really we fed off of each other in a good way where it was comfortable, but then it was competitive. Then so we show up to practice and we knew the offense was good. We knew the players in front of us was good, and we wanted to get better for them. And we knew that about each other. It was like we were just slowly trying to get better to prepare the team, to make the team better. So that's kind of where it all came from.
And I went on YouTube. Anyone who's watching or listening can do the same. Maybe we'll even put some clips over this video right now. But I saw some of her, like your highlights. You talked about her highlights, but your highlights also are absolutely incredible. Some great saves there in goal. What goes into your mind when you step into goal for a game? Do you have any prep, any superstitions that you always like to do? What's the mindset when you step on that field?
Yeah, I think my superstitions have changed over the years. I look back in college and I was a very young goalie mentally, in the sense of like, I was just focused on trying to make the save, trying to do my job to win the game, help win the game for the team. But some kind of superstitions or things that I do like doing is I like to visualize, when I'm kind of standing on the field during warm-ups, if I get like a minute to myself, I just kind of close my eyes and visualize the past saves that I've made. And then I also I love a challenge. I love competing. I love, playing against the best of the best, because that's how you prove yourself. And so I think just having that crave and that fearlessness to be in that position is what helped me when I was, successful. There are times that I didn't play well, and there are some ruts and times when I lost my starting position, and you kind of learn a lot from that.
Yeah, I mean, lacrosse, same as all the other sports, is such an up and down sport, but it's different from, say, basketball or baseball or, I don't know, you name any other sport, in that there's only about 12.5 games in a season, and that must be pretty difficult to navigate, then as a player, now as a coach. So I guess my question for you is right now, when you're there and when you're kind of in a rut, what do you tell yourself to get back out of it, to ultimately become the goalie that leads to a national championship?
Yeah, so in college, thankfully sharing the position with Megan, who is a strong goalie, it helped almost ease the pressure of, okay, if I'm not in, I at least know that she's this superstar goalie who's going to make the saves and the team's going to win, because that's what mattered ultimately at the end of the day, and that's what we wanted, right? So that it almost relieved the pressure, because sometimes when I was in there, it's like you just, as a goalie, you get stuck thinking, oh my God, I have to make the save, or if you miss it, okay, I have to get this next one, or especially if you let one in that maybe hit off your stick, you let that get in your head, and that veers you in the wrong direction. So to kind of get back on path, you have to just kind of remember your roots as a goalie and hold on to that. And it's not always that you're doing something wrong physically. I think what happened to me in college is I always thought that if I was in a rut, I was doing something physically wrong or technically wrong. in the goalie position. So I would just try extra hard, maybe working on my low shots or extra hard working on this or that. And then I analyzed too much of I'd go into practice and I'd be like, oh, that didn't feel right. Like, why isn't it doing this? I'm working hard, when it's just like, that's just adding more and more to it. So going back to your roots, and also it's just important to continue connecting with your teammates in practice, because you're trying to make them better, and focusing and encouraging them and cheering them on. That will kind of relieve you from, thinking so hard about what you're doing. Is
Right.
Stay focused on your teammates, of encouraging and cheering them on.
Right. A couple more for your time as a Tar Heel lacrosse goalie. What do you think makes a great goalie? Is it anticipation? Is it agility? Is it a strong mindset? What do you think are the strengths of a great goalie?
There are a few things. I think it's embracing the position
Right.
for all the unpredictability of it. And with that, you have to embrace it with confidence. You have to want to be in the position, whether it's you're down by 2 goals or whether you feel like you're not playing well. And that carries to that mindset. But anytime you kind of have that doubt, or like you wish it was some other situation, like that affects your natural instinct of playing goalie. Because you can tell goalies get tight, and you see it with all athletes sometimes when they get tight or nervous or they're trying too hard. So the key is being able to feel loose and focused, so that you're able to just instinctually play yourself. There's so many different styles out there. So it's about anticipating it, but also just like your natural ability to play yourself and be patient. I think like patience is the key with goalkeeping, and it feels backwards because a lot of training is about gotta be quick feet, quick hands, etc. But you can be patient for as long as possible and then attack the ball at the last second. That's what makes, I believe, the best goalies, and it helps you feel grounded in everything. And I think it just like mentally helps you feel like at ease too.
That's a great answer. I think that your key on patience is so important in not just lacrosse, but in all the other sports. I want to dive into the national championships. So 2016, you had started playing lacrosse less than 10 years ago. You hear the buzzer sound. You hear the Tar Heels are national championships, are national champions of women's lacrosse. What goes through your mind at that moment?
Wow. It's pretty cool taking myself back to that. Just kind of feel it again. It's such a thrill of, oh my God, this is real. We made it.
Yeah.
Like, just countless times after practice with my teammates and friends, we would talk about it. We'd envision it. We'd be like, set up so many situations, scenarios, and it's such a grind and a long season. So to feel that and share it with everyone was overwhelming. It's just like, we freaking did it. This is what we wanted, and we did it.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. Another quick thing I want to touch on at UNC is the academics it's known for. I mentioned the All ACC honor roll. You studied media and journalism per the UNC website. Was that always the plan? Was that always something you wanted to go into?
I actually had no clue. So I knew I wanted to do entrepreneurship, so I minored in that. And then I misjudged what the journalism major was. I went to a fair, and I thought journalism major was kind of just, writing, editing, something, publishing, that sort of stuff. But it's, the name had recently changed to media and journalism, and I learned that there were so many different avenues. So I went into the journalism school, but I had to work super hard because there was a GPA requirement to it. And that really, I really enjoyed that push. It helped me find a love and understanding for learning, something that other than lacrosse, like so much of what I did was lacrosse, but it was cool to dive into other areas and learn and work hard in the classroom.
Is there a way that you kind of see yourself maybe getting into that media realm in the future? Whether it's through lacrosse or not, is that something you're still interested in approaching?
I was when I first graduated. I didn't want to be a lacrosse coach. I wanted to go into kind of the sports marketing or just sports, just learn about sports kind of off the field, but not from a coaching perspective. And I did kind of get into it in a few different ways, I guess, or at least the sports side. I mean, there were a couple games that I did some color commentary for at UNC.
That's
when
awesome.
I lived in Chapel Hill. So that was kind of fun to see that angle and production and all that. And then I also worked for a sports software company called Teamworks, and I was a product manager there. And that's that they then merged with Influencer, who's a media kind of hub. I don't know if you guys heard of it. So in little ways it has come in, and kind of the entrepreneurship too. So it's definitely an avenue that I enjoy, and I kind of find it in ways in my life.
Yeah. So after you graduate, you do the little bit of journalism and media, as you mentioned, but you also get your name called first overall by the Philadelphia Fire in the WPLL, and then so you went into professional a little bit after that. You also immediately went into coaching. So when did each of those things be something that you realized you could really do with the rest of your life? And how did you come to realize that you could even get into both at the same time?
Both as in playing and coaching?
Playing and coaching, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're currently, on a roster on Team USA while you're still a coach, Stanford, UNC, Army, West Point, UVA. So, it's not easy to balance both of those. When did that become part of the plan?
Yeah, I am not someone who is good at making plans kind of thing. So when you asked me when I graduate in college what I want to do, I would have told you I have no clue kind of thing, or where I saw myself in 5 years, I have no clue. But there were certain things that I knew that I saw myself in that I wanted. And one of them was I wanted to be playing lacrosse, however that looked, whatever opportunities were out there. Mm-hmm. So I always knew that I would be kind of holding on to that. And then I graduated, and I did want a break from lacrosse, in the sense of, like, I knew that someday I could see myself going into coaching, but I just felt too young at the time, kind of like it stunk the way our season ended, losing in quarterfinals, etc. I was like, I kind of just need a break. So that fall, I actually didn't start at Stanford until the spring, because Amy Bacher, she was one of the assistant coaches for the U.S. team, and Cookie Carr was on the U.S. team at the time. And they were like, hey, we're looking for like a goalie volunteer. Why don't you come help us out? And I was like, sure. Why not move to California, give that a try? And, what I enjoyed about that was that it was a volunteer position. So I wasn't fully involved, but I could still see the other side of it, and I still got to compete. And so I was there. I went to practice every day, but I still, I coached in the evenings with, young kids, and I worked at a coffee shop. So that really helped me just transition out of college and not like jump into something. I kind of got to just ease out, but still fill that void of competitiveness and all that sort. And I did love it, but there was always a part of me that wanted to try something else. I was like, I want to see what else I'm capable of, right? Kind of like I study media and journalism. I want to see what I can do with myself with that, knowing that I will always stay connected to lacrosse, whether it's playing, whether it's coaching at a youth level, or etc. So that's when I started working at Teamworks, and I loved it because I worked with former student athletes. So that was just really cool, that environment, and I learned a lot about myself. And they put me in positions that I never thought I could see myself in. So that helped build confidence in myself overall. Like, hey, I have these other skill sets, or just seeing these experiences of, how businesses work and communication and planning and etc. And talking to customers. And so I loved it, but it wasn't until I played in AU the summer of 2021 where I was working at Teamworks and
Yes.
playing at AU that I just woke up and we would go to practice and I was just like beaming. I felt so happy to be on the lacrosse field that it kind of got harder to get back into work. And it was tough to be at work knowing that I wasn't giving it my all, kind of thing, that my
Okay.
heart like really just wanted to kind of be out on the lacrosse field sort of thing. So I was just like, you know what, it's not fair to the company. I'm not giving my 100% anymore. Like, I'm going to leave. So I left Teamworks, and that's when I just went out and kind of freelanced, did goalie stuff, and I still live in Chapel Hill. So I volunteered with UNC um, at the time. And it's kind of just like from there, lacrosse, it just slowly trickled in. I can just feel
Right.
it in my heart each year.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you were, as you've been mentioning, you were a volunteer at Stanford and North Carolina, also Army West Point, and then this year is your first year kind of being a full-time assistant at UVA. So what's that transition been like when you first got the call to come on staff? What was that moment like for you, and how has it really just been being able to be on the lacrosse field all day, every day, like you're so happy doing?
Yeah, it's getting that call. I remember I got off the phone with Sonia. It was first just an initial call to kind of get to know each other and, see if we both felt like it
Hmm.
was a fit. And I just remember getting off the call. I was at AU and just like sprinting to my room and telling my friends, like, oh my God, that just felt so right and just like connected and like feeling like I want to just go there on the spot now. Like I want to say yes
Yeah.
to this position. Um, yeah, it's like it just filled a part of my heart that just it felt so right. And Sonia was so easy to connect with, and I loved her energy and kind of her vision, and um, I just felt like it in a good way. It's
Hmm.
it's a comfortable place to go because it fulfilled everything kind of that I was looking for if I were to hop back into college coaching, because I knew how kind of it takes a lot of time to be a coach, long out,
Yeah.
or just different kinds of hours and weekends and this and that. And I was like, these are the people that I want to be around. This is, just like the history of UVA. I've always wanted to be here. So I'd love to just be able to have this impact with these people and learn from Sonia and
Yeah.
Mike and Kerrigan. So it really felt special. If you ask Sonia, she'll, or I don't know if she'd tell you this, but I started crying when I officially said yes, and she probably didn't know what to do. She'd like just only met me 3 times, but that just kind of goes to show it just, when it really fills you up the right way when you're at exactly where you're supposed to be.
Man, that's really cool. And I want to touch on something a little bit. You were talking about it, but this is something that we talk about a lot on the show is how switching to coaching, the other side of the coach-player relationship, how does that kind of teach you about yourself or the game, your game? And then especially like being a current player or a recent player as well. What does that kind of teach you about lacrosse that you hadn't known before?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've just learned the sport so much more by being a coach, and especially the coaches who I've been able to be around as a volunteer at Stanford, UNC, at Army. Like I have just been able to absorb so much, whether it's like learning offensive coaches or defensive coaches or,
Hmm.
head coaches and how they work. And so I just feel like I kind of understand the game better than just a goalie perspective. And then vice versa, still playing and feeling like I've matured mentally in my playing ability and confidence and that sort. I think that has helped me kind of connect to
Yeah.
players and understand how, just emotions and mentally and confidence and training, etc., that sort, and, positivity, etc.
Man, that's really cool. I want to get a couple more. I know that you're short on time, so I'm gonna be conscious of that. UVA this year lost to UNC narrowly in overtime. You were part of that game. Obviously, it's the South's oldest rivalry, as they call it in football. Was there any, what were the emotions like that day for you? Were there a bunch of hugs and everything for that?
Yeah, after the game, there was, but prior to the game, I just felt really excited to be playing a strong opponent.
Yeah.
It's UNC, and kind of just knowing the history of the two programs. UVA, they haven't beat UNC in a few years. Some of the losses were pretty tough for them. So, I came into it solely a competitive mindset. I wanted to win, wanted the team to win, etc.,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And Jenny Levy, UNC head coach. She
Yeah.
was a UVA Lax alum, so
Yeah.
kind of funny. We like swapped like that. But then, after the game, it was, really sweet to, see the people who have taught me so much. And I knew I wouldn't have been at UVA without Jenny and Phil and all those people. So it felt very special to be in that game.
Yeah. Right now, I think that UVA is ranked 11th in the country. You're coming down the home stretch of the season. What's it been like with this team, and what's it going to take to put it all together and make a run here late in the season?
Yeah, I mean, the girls or the girls have been awesome. Just every day showing up at practice, they have the right mindset. They have that belief and they haven't strayed from it. And regardless of, there were bumps and challenges, we lost to Duke, etc. But they really feel strongly about each other. And that's what matters is, that teammates and your culture, because that essentially brings out the best in you. And so they've also been very respectful. And so it's been such a joy to work with these women. And like I said, they're just respectful and they work hard and they want to do what it takes. They want it. And now they're going to get that.
To Wahoo Nation, who may have been following this team loosely or, may not know a lot about this team, what do you have to tell them who's, one of the more passionate fan bases in the ACC, really cares deeply about every single one of their sports? So to Wahoo Nation watching, as, they love their teams making a deep run in the postseason, what's your message to them?
Wahoo Nation, so far, thanks for following us. Keep following us. We play BC Senior Day this Saturday at 4 p.m. But, just continue to support us and, help us kind of spread our brand and who we are, whether it's, telling your friends or families about UVA Women's Lax, telling them to turn on the TV, etc. That, this is, a whole new team that has a spark and they have a whole lot that they want to prove and they believe in themselves. And we really believe that we have championships, in our, it's in our DNA and we're holding on to that. And, the players, they're really full of talent and they have a lot of fun and that matters.
That is awesome. I'll end you with this one. This is a question I ask every single person I talk to on this show. What is one great piece of advice that someone has given you at any point in your life you would like to share with the world? It can be about lacrosse, just life, coaching, whatever it may be. The floor is yours.
Oof. There's quite a few. I remember there was like a magnet on my refrigerator as a kid growing up, and it said the message, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. And I remember the first few times I read it, I was so confused by it. What the heck does that mean? But as I kept reading it, it made sense. whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So, it's about what you tell yourself and then kind of taking action on that. And it also kind of goes to show, relates to two other quotes that I like. One of them is comparison is thief of joy, right? And just, staying focused. It doesn't matter, especially for, players. Like, it doesn't matter how this other player is playing or X, Y, and Z. What are you producing? What's your effort for the team, sort of thing? Don't worry about someone else. And then another one that I heard Sonia say the other week is energy flows where the attention goes. So these are all like mindset things, but it all kind of just goes down to belief and, staying focused in the people around you and those goals.
All three of those are awesome. I really appreciate your time today, and it's been exciting to hear your story, one that Wahoo fans may not be familiar with necessarily, but certainly one of the cooler and more unique stories that we have here on ground. So it's been a great deal of fun to talk to you today, and I really appreciate your time once again.
Thank you, Ben, very much. Wahoo Nations, thanks for tuning in and following along as we're going to capture some championships.
Yeah,
let's go.
Unique Pathways presented by H3 Sports. I'm your host, Ben Rekosh. Like and subscribe, follow, write a review wherever you find your podcast. Really appreciate you tuning into this episode. And thanks, as always, to our guest today, Coach Caylee Waters, all-time saves leader at UNC, current assistant coach at your Virginia Cavaliers.
Unique Pathways is sponsored by Piedmont Realty Holdings, building better together. Bellaterra Landscaping and Hardscaping Services. ECS Prosthetics, we come to you. Jeff Burton Consulting, charting your path to a successful outcome. Major League Mindset, results on and off the field. Blue Sky Property Management, own your experience. BSN Sports, the heart of the game. And by Croze Sports, community, family, and sports.